My friends are going to take the piss out of me because they've caught me in like 4 different conversations where I'm telling the person to do what they love.
We wanted to keep it simple during the production. We were just 2, so we did take care of the lighting.
Of course.
We did to carry all the equipment.
I always prefer working with at least one other person on set.
Here we are at Videocafe studio. Matt here, the co-founder of Videocafe, together with Adrian, who is also a co-founder of Videocafe and an established filmmaker, and Benji Zammit. I'm so glad we have you here today. He's also an established filmmaker who worked on a production that was recently launched. So how did the client go about this? I know that we as Videocafe worked a couple of times with Café del Mar.
First of all, we love working with Café del Mar because they're quite open to our ideas. And in that sense, I think that helps because we do the best work. When we're confident in the concept we have, when we enjoy actually doing it.
And when you're making something which is your own and which isn't constrained by the client.
Exactly. So in that sense, we work really good with the client. And he leaves it quite open to us. We had done recruitment videos before, as you know, and there were always kind of different, not the traditional call, listen, we're employing, and we always gave that there was always a storyline to it. This year, we had to think of something which is visually appealing, which makes sense, really important, obviously, it needs to make sense. So that's why we came up with Build the Beat of Summer and doing this track and focusing mainly on close-ups.
And the amount of feedback that the client had and that you had, Benji, and that you had, Adrian, and that Videocafe had was impeccable. So good job on getting something that is usually boring, recruitment, you know? Yeah. And make it fun.
Can I add something to this? In fact, besides doing it as a recruitment video, it was also kind of a brand video, a brand exposure video for Café del Mar. So it was another piece to add to their exposure.
You're showing
that's very
Café del Mar and you're still showing the pool and you're showing some really nice areas and who works
and
there
you
in a beautiful way, essentially, right?
Exactly. And you turn something which is, again, which could have been boring, just a simple call out for applications, and merge it to something which people enjoy seeing. And the more attraction you get, the more likely that people will actually apply, to be honest.
Exactly.
So the first time we worked for Café del Mar, we didn't know much about Café del Mar, possibly, but building on the relationship and learning the do's and don'ts, not just the restriction, but even what works for them, what doesn't work for them, the changes they do, what they want to implement and focus more on. Automatically, certain things in these meetings nowadays we don't even mention because we know the values of Café del Mar, for example, and we know the image they would want to portray and certain things that they would want to avoid. So that also helps our concept as well. So automatically, certain things, we just skip them. To be honest, most of the initial meetings would be the timeline of things, to be honest.
Probably more like we need a video to show off this and you just execute in
How
that
good
sense.
this is. So nowadays, it isn't a matter of having 60% of the meeting discussing what the brand is about and stuff like that, but purely discussing the idea, what they want, what they want to achieve.
Exactly.
So if you've worked with them before, they know who you are, they know what you can produce, so they trust you in that sense.
Exactly, and here we can see the advantage, in fact, of having a brand working with the same filmmaker or a team of filmmakers over time. I do also see the advantage of changing, and it has become quite normal for a brand or a company to change filmmakers quite often because you get all kind of creativity.
In fact, the add-on of Benji was really helpful because there was another eye and angle to it. Totally. Although I came up with the concept, technically, in my own location, I wouldn't even say I was directing it or something. We were filming it together. And his vision played an integral part.
But then the beauty of working with other people is you can bounce your ideas off of each other.
Exactly.
And you kind of build something together in that sense.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean?
And there were many times where we were
I'd see
like...
an angle, you'd see the same angle, but a bit differently. And then we combine both our thoughts and we make something. In that
there were
sense,
multiple times where we were like, you know what we think would be a really good angle, and we go for it, and he'd be like,
That's a bit shit,
actually.
So we know that this production was actually made up of two people.
Two people, yeah.
Two people. So it was a two-man crew on board, all in on this one. So I'm curious, how did you divide the roles? Were there roles in the first place?
So you can talk about
as in
it.
you pretty much did a lot of the pre-production, the writing, the meetings, the concept was all yours and all that. And then you brought me on board. You're like, listen, I have this idea for Café del Mar. We want to put this video together. It's going to be driven by the sound. And you're like, you want to just help me film it and whatever. And I was like, for sure, you know, I'm in, as always in summer. So essentially, then on set, we both kind of just like tackled the scenes shot by shot. We approached each shot and we were like, how are we going to start this? We had some references, like some visual references, and we tried to emulate those references. But essentially, we did everything together. Enough, maybe one shot, I lit, and he had the idea for the angle and he kind of framed that. The next one we did, you know what I mean?
Sound, we
it was
were
very
always
collaborative
changing.
in that sense.
Sound.
Like, it wasn't...
We see the mic there, we need to record the audio now. Whoever is close to it just puts on the headphones
Exactly,
and starts
we just
recording.
record, like,
No,
so-
we didn't have...
So some of us DP,
roles,
some,
yes,
like,
yes.
you know, it was very...
And
like, in my head.
I enjoyed filming it.
I did too.
We shot, I think we're going to, possibly we're going to mention the cameras and the equipment.
No,
but,
don't worry, feel free, go
But we shot with various equipment, and which we were both comfortable in using.
To be honest, we used one camera which I never shot on before, and that was new for me.
Exactly. We can jump
to
That's how we
the
get to it
two-man
later,
thing.
is that-
No, we can actually tackle this now because it's very interesting.
Okay.
So we used, actually, you have to tell them. So you used the RED Komodo, right?
Yes.
And the
I
second
know
cinema
that
lens.
we're all FX3 users here, Sony FX3 users. We also have the Komodo, obviously, here. But how did you make the choice of using the RED Komodo over the FX3?
I mean, the type of production it was a very pre-planned and slow-paced production, which gives you time to actually work with a bigger camera in that sense, you know? So you can work with a larger rig on a tripod and you're not like rushing around. You have to get about different shots. You're very like focused in on a specific shot. And with that respect, when you're using a larger rig and you have time to use that, it makes sense to do so because you're getting better quality out of what you're shooting essentially with that camera.
And when you say better quality, I mean,
As in
you
it
were
shoots
you
in-
after a filmic look here? Was that the main reason on choosing the
From my end,
the RED Komodo?
I think, in all honesty, most of the time we use the Sony FX3. Usually,
most.
Exception
even here,
95% of the time,
95%,
Sony
even here at
FX3.
Videocafe, we do most of the work. Why? Because it's compact. It's a powerhouse at the end of the day.
It still is.
And it also has super autofocus. So if you're
Super
shooting
autofocus,
documentary work or
exactly,
something super
exactly.
fast-paced, you kind of need it.
Definitely. And the colors, we found it relatively easy to merge the colors to the Komodo. But mainly we went for the RED Komodo was that it shoots in 6K.
Yeah.
And the FX3 shoots in 4K. We wanted to keep it simple during the production because although it wasn't a massive setup and we were just two, so we needed to take care of the lighting.
Of course.
We needed to carry all the equipment. We needed to record the audio.
Which took some time.
Those are the challenges of
Yes.
having such a small team then, right?
Yeah, so you have to do
Exactly.
everything yourself.
And in post, we didn't want to have a lot of fast-paced shots or slow-paced shots, which then wouldn't fit the edit.
All right.
So what we had in mind is to shoot in 6K on a tripod, motionless. So just static and have the whatever we're doing, the action being the movement. And then if we wanted in post, we could zoom in quite by 3 times or so, as much as we wanted, even if we wanted to create movement as the track goes by, for example. So we had that option in post rather than pre-planning all this stuff and all the movement, which then might end up working against us in the edit.
Exactly.
And since the whole edit is driven by sound, you want the main focus to be on that.
That's a very good point.
Movement and a lot of other stuff. The viewer is going to subconsciously notice these things, and it will take away from the whole.
That's a very good
concept,
point. That's a very good point.
Very, very
and
good
in
point.
fact, I want to add this to it, that although we shot a lot of sequences, for example, if we were shooting in the kitchen, we had a whole sequence, and I kept some of those, for example, with the cracking of the egg and stuff. And even for the F&B, for example, we had a whole sequence. We only included 2 shots. But as Benji was saying, this was, although it was visually appealing, but the sound led the whole story. I walked into the post-production not knowing which shots are going to feature after each other.
So would I dare to say that it was a sound first production?
Definitely.
I think in the edit, for sure, right? As in you'd hear the crack of the egg, you'd combine it with the pasta going in the water, the thingy,
exactly. Whatever worked.
If it works. If that sound doesn't work with the other 2,
exactly. We had really good shots, which we didn't end up using.
Make it.
Unfortunately.
So we had most of it. Possibly there were better shots to include rather than what we had, although thankfully it ended up being quite nice. But we had to dish them because they didn't make the cut solely because of the sound.
It didn't match.
And an interesting fact, if I had to mention this quickly, was that we shot most of the sounds on location. In fact, Benji, I think you can evolve on the struggle we had, but we'll jump into it soon. But besides that, I wanted to mention
the challenge you had with sound.
The challenge we had with sound. But we shot most of it there, and also we used certain sounds in post-production, using Artlist, for example. We downloaded sound effects because, for example, although we recorded the cocktail filling up, that does not necessarily make the noise that we want for the edit.
Exactly.
And, for example, in the edit, we used a foaming.
All right.
So it was like instead of...
Exactly.
Because it wasn't so impactful.
And it would still work with the visual. It still feels real.
No. It feels that's it. Because when you're looking at the visual...
And hearing some other sound.
You would really think that that's the sound that's...
So let me put someone that didn't watch this, and I suggest you watch it in the description below. Let me put things in context. So this commercial was built of sound effects, which formed the whole music production kind of thing. It's formed the soundtrack of the whole commercial, right?
In fact, like, for example, we had a scene in a kitchen. We'd start in the kitchen. We knew we wanted sharpening the knife, pouring the boiling water, pasta on the water. Everything else, we kind of looked around and we're like, what sound would that make? What sound would that make?
How cool is that?
And we just like mess around, see what would work, see what wouldn't, shoot a few things, and then he has options in post.
Were there any shortcomings during the filming?
As in, yes, there were a few. Like, for example, one thing was when we came to record the sound, obviously, when you're planning it, you think you just show up, recorder, mic, you record the sound, press record, you know what I mean? But for example, in the kitchen, it was a bit of an issue because there were so many appliances making like either a whir or like a little weird background noise, where like when we came to record the water boiling, for example, obviously you hear the extractor, we turned it off, put on your headphones, and you hear another sound. You're like, what's that sound? And you try find it. Turns out it was the fridge, like, so then we turn off the fridge. And then there's still another sound like humming in the background. So it was funny because, to be honest, we turned off nearly everything in the kitchen.
Everything. Around 10 appliances.
Like we spent like 15 minutes and there still was something like, and it was quite fun. I'm like with the headphones, with the mic, and we're running around the kitchen like placing the mic next to different like objects and stuff, trying to figure out what this bloody sound was.
And somehow I'm imagining a Gen Alpha watching this. jew Gen Z, jgħidlek, you're Gen Z, insomma. Mux AI, bro. Le, ma it's important.
no.
Voice isolation exists, but that's voice.
Yes,
But it's also cut certain frequencies. In this case, where the whole production is based solely on sound effects,
Exactly.
you can't mess around with sound, you know?
If you're like a super professional sound guy, maybe in post-production, you know a few things, you can do
Exactly,
to remove these sounds, you know, but I'm not. Adrian is probably
not,
better than me, but
So get the best you...
so obviously on set you always try to get like the cleanest take you can, you know, in that sense.
And one other thing that happened to us was the coffee machine was a bit of a nightmare.
Yes, that's true.
Why?
We were doing this. We were doing this shot, the normal coffee. You grind the beans, you fill it up, you ma nafx tgħidilha, you smash it, so you
Smash it, right? Compress it.
You compress it, you level it, you plug it in. But at first it was working for us, but you know how filming goes, multiple takes. By the fourth time, we switched it on, and we heard like,
And it explodes.
And it exploded everywhere.
Exploded.
Apparently, what happened was when we were throwing away the unwanted coffee to refill it again, we removed the filter.
So it would fill up.
So
and
it would
wouldn't
fill
come out.
up, it
So
wouldn't
to
come
keep
out,
filling,
and then
keep
it
filling,
would
keep filling
explode.
to the point where.
Oh, no. Do you have some kind of footage or behind the scenes session?
Technically, we do have,
But the
because we
thing is,
were recording,
But we're shooting so tight, you're not going to see.
No, you're not going to see the whole mess.
So, yeah, can you describe it
Yeah.
visually to the people watching the audience?
It's horrible. As in, like,
horrible.
my camera covered in enough like coffee bean dust. And,
Exactly.
That's a nice shot.
As if you had really bad food poison. Let's put it that way.
So it literally exploded.
Exploded everywhere.
But then, how did you go about the shots you needed to take?
As you know, we tried again and again. It kept happening.
We found another.
Exactly, we found another.
Filter.
You just keep
Filter.
trying. As that. And to be honest, the marketing managers left us alone for this shot. So they were.
So it's his fault.
So we're trying to.
Or him.
No, it's
Both of them.
But we're there.
Dugan and Martina.
By the way, hi.
Your fault.
Yeah.
So we're there trying to operate a coffee machine. I've never used one in my life. He's probably never used one either, I think.
Guys, we have one. Yeah, Videocafe.
But ours is automatic. Ours is automatic.
Yeah.
This is the proper. Like,
Still with beans.
Still with
Yeah,
me.
good point. Good point.
No,
but
I think
it's fun, and to be honest, these things make the shoot like fun in that sense. You know, it doesn't have to be super uptight
Tight.
and rigid. It makes our job like extremely
that's
fun.
it.
Like,
The
you
fun
just-
fact was that we spent an hour shooting just this specific shot and cleaning the mugs, and it didn't end up being in the edit.
That's true. I didn't even know. But like throughout, we were dying with laughter. You know.
Check at the end of the day, you go home, you feel like you've had a good day.
And you feel like you've just gone out with a friend and spent some time messing around, shooting some stuff. You know what I mean? My friends are going to take the piss out of me because they've caught me in like 4 different conversations where I'm telling the person to do what they love. Like, so now it's this whole thing. Like, whenever I speak to someone, they take a photo and they caption and do what you love. Like. And you're about to speak about that. So if they clip this, like, you'll live up.
Doing what you love is super important. It's just that it's not just about that. It's about enjoying the process at the end of the day, you know?
Fully.
Having a great outcome, which will benefit the client if you're doing the job for the client. But what's best then, enjoying what you love, you know? And you end
Fully.
up...
It's everything, essentially. It's everything. And
We
we're
can
extremely
confirm
lucky.
we had although
a good
obviously
time.
we had some challenges, but we had a good time.
Had a good time.
So it was us enjoying that we're getting really nice shots at the end of the day, because even looking at the shots and they end up nice, and as you imagine them, as we imagine them, it gives you great satisfaction. The whole process was fun. We had 2 days instead of 1, which we didn't even
Like, it didn't make a difference,
bother.
you know?
Why not?
We were
Why
happy
not?
to do so.
Why not? Just a remark, if you're someone watching at the moment and you say, fuck, I'm not having fun, don't worry about it. It's a process. First of all, if it's not for you, it's not for you. It's okay, change career if you want to. But sorry but sorry for disrupting.
I know
I was
what
going to
you're
disrupt
saying.
you, to be honest.
But
Oh,
what I want to say is, we're here now, but still there are some points where we're not having fun, where we're working really hard and not achieving what we want to achieve. And there were other points in our career before that, we had to work really hard. Even now we're working
And today
hard,
it's
but
not even every project.
I don't want to pass on a message that it's always fun and we're all the time doing what we love. We do love our jobs, we do love, not even jobs, careers, but it goes up and down, it's a whole thing.
Exactly.
So don't discourage yourself if you're not enjoying it at the moment.
But working with other people just does make it that much better. You know what I mean?
That's
And
it.
16-hour shoots look like 8 hours at least.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which is standard, 16-hour shoots in our industry.
Standard.
It's either 2 days or 16-hour shoots.
What percentage of improv did you have?
I think it was very 60-40, so 40% improvised in that sense.
And 60% pre-planned,
We had 3 very solid references,
Exactly.
and then everything else was
inspired by the location itself.
By the way, when we're mentioning references in pre, it's a common, for anyone who doesn't know, we first come up with the concept and then we start looking at visual references. We were using Frameset, Instagram. We try not to focus much on Instagram. We were discussing this actually. We try not to focus much on Instagram because
can influence you a lot.
it can influence you a lot, and
right.
some stuff are recycled.
And
We all end up.
you can fall into the trend tab,
That's it. And
which is a bit
long-term-
different
Exactly.
from what
And which is
we
cool,
do.
don't get me
No,
wrong.
no, of course.
No, and we
But
took some
long-term,
good references
for sure,
of
for sure,
Instagram.
for sure.
I'm not saying anything against, but when you're looking at sites such as Frameset or iCandy, for example, you're taking inspiration from actual films.
From stuff which is much more elevated.
Exactly,
much more-
from the best DPs, from the best directors in the world. So I think us as creators, we should look at more at that stuff.
Uh-huh.
So we don't end up, at the end of the day, we're creating short pieces, kind of, I wouldn't call it a
Of art,
film.
no,
I wouldn't,
but
I
it
wouldn't
is.
call it a film.
No,
it's
no,
a
but-
short piece.
Yeah.
It's an artistic piece, but and it's content at the end of the day. So we're merging social media to film, but we still would want our work, even you, obviously, we still, when we discuss these things, we would want our work to look more creative and stylistic
For sure.
and more. That's why we
You
went
don't-
for a storyline.
You'd also want it to be more
Rather
unique.
than-
So if you start following trends, and you start
Exactly.
emulating what you're seeing all the time, it ends up losing its value in that sense.
It's true,
it ends up
because
being one of
the
what
audience
was on-
size is used to it, right?
Exactly. And then it loses its spark as well, because it's not as exciting.
What's
It's
your
not, you know-
relationship with social media, Ben? Because I'm
It's
curious
a
with
weird
every
one. I
filmmaker,
scroll a
even
lot.
me.
I'm addicted. I'm heavily addicted.
By the way, even me, I don't scroll a lot, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
I'm
but-
heavily, as in I do, I scroll all the time. I'm heavily addicted. It's something I want to stop because, unfortunately, and fortunately, Taj, as in, first of all, I get a lot of inspiration. I've learned a lot. I get a lot of visual references, so I use it in that respect. But at the same time, it can be dangerous because if you fall in the trap of seeing cool stuff, which is being done a lot, and you try and emulate that, you're not developing your own visual style, and you're kind of falling in a category of people who are all making the same stuff, which to me is, it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. But for me, I'd want to be recognized for my own work, for it being my own and unique. And so that's something I need to kind of be careful of. So when I use social media and I scroll, I try to do it intentionally and I try absorb the things which I want to create and which I find interesting and not which necessarily blow up or do extremely well.
Yeah.
Or
That will enhance your art rather than
Exactly,
it
rather
infects you in a way that their art becomes yours.
Exactly.
Having said
exactly.
this,
And it's hard because
exactly. In fact, one thing I need to mention is that personally, I do get a lot of inspiration on Instagram. There are certain YouTubers I follow which are either solo filmmakers or they form part of a bigger team. which are on Instagram, and most of the time they post stuff on Instagram, so I end up watching. So in that sense, it's already selective what I'm watching. But then there are certain trends which, if an effect is cool, it's cool.
And it's
So if it is 0.5% of the whole edit, which blows you away, and you say, I would love to implement this in my edit, tipo.
You've done that, right?
We've done that.
As in, like the most recent one is like Shabba quick cuts in the beginning with some really cool music, like some whooshes and sound effects,
exactly.
and it works.
It
and
works.
It blows up, and it's a trend for a reason because it is inevitable. Like it's cool.
Exactly.
But then
But
once
no,
everyone
no,
is doing it, it starts to lose its.
And I think when you take away for a while the clients and anyone else who assigns us as filmmakers, I think that as a filmmaker, we're all the time looking for our purpose or our meaning of doing things. You know what I mean? Our soul. We're looking and we're diving into our hearts, our soul. We need to find a deeper meaning to things, you know. So that's my personal dilemma or my personal awkwardness with social media. That on social media I got inspired. Yeah, you see what's trending. Yeah, but we're not looking for virality as such. In the long term, we're looking for a deeper meaning behind our work.
But at the same time, it's obviously attractive. You want to blow up. You want your shit to be seen by thousands or millions of people.
True.
So it's a difficult one. It's hard to balance your like creative style while still seeing all that cool shit doing well, because you're drawn to it naturally. But me personally, then I start to say, Ostra, I don't want to be like everyone else, you know what I mean?
But especially when the client
it's
is in the mix
you're being
too.
pulled in two different directions.
Now imagine how complex this is, and imagine dragging the client into all this because he wants numbers, the client or she.
Exactly.
The client wants
But in
numbers.
fact, I would like to. I think the two things I want to mention are, first of all, I'd rather most of the time I get inspiration. For example, the clamping, it's nice, and sometimes it fits the story.
Of course.
It's not the edit style. So as you said, right at the moment it's trendy that you start with a swipe with a pen, kind of, and you hear like.
Exactly.
And it is visually interesting,
And it's cool.
And it is
And it
cool,
works.
and it works. But if you do either all your edits that way, if it's not your side, or
Exactly.
you're recycling work. It's like a trending audio on TikTok, and you're using it, and you're reusing it and doing it your own.
We're all recycling work all the time.
Yes, we are.
Totally.
But that's it. If I got inspired by the first time we saw a probe shot,
You just start doing
we
that.
were like, wow. And I still see certain wow shots in the probe lens. It's different using techniques such as the clamp shots, the probe lens, which is another lens at the end of the day. It's not something, it doesn't become outdated, you know what I mean? Rather than you use taking on an editing style.
Yes.
So it's to me it's okay that I like a clamp shot, and where it makes sense, like we did for this, it works.
But
and
then
we
you
used
have
it.
to hold back when you're editing, and you don't do all these cool effects because it doesn't
Exactly.
You know what
Yeah.
they say in
doesn't
editing?
help the story.
A popular thing that among editors, kill your darling.
I know what you're gonna say. It means
Kill
even
your
if
darling.
you have like 10 top shots, you don't have to use them all, right?
Probably there's a particular shot that you shot at, or as an editor, you love a particular shot that you say, this I want to include, no matter what.
Exactly.
But if it doesn't fit the storyline, feel free to
In fact,
get
I was
it,
speaking to someone recently,
cut
and they
it
were
off.
telling me like the best editors are the most ruthless ones, and they just chop. They're not emotionally attached to the footage.
Exactly, that's it.
And they just cut out what they need and use what they need. Like,
Kill your darling. not your darling at home.
No. the last point I wanted to make, because we were mentioning our own style, but I feel really responsible because sometimes our style is brands are trusting us with whatever we come up with.
Shall we?
But that's amazing.
That's
And
amazing.
That's why if you are unique to yourself,
That's true, but imagine implementing a trending style to a new business. And technically this business is not knowledgeable about video, technically. And you're just putting on this trending style to his brand identity. That could work to his favor in terms of numbers, for example, but we are responsible of creating original things in that sense and their visual identity. So it's like, it's important to sit down and understand again what the brand is and their brand identity.
Shall the client come for us for our particular style, or shall we adapt
not
according to the
necessarily,
client?
no. I don't.
It depends on the scope of the job, what they need, and who you're working for, I think. And then
That's also a very good important point.
We as filmmakers need to be aware of, and if you don't read the room in that sense,
Exactly.
I don't think you'll be doing making the
Exactly.
best decisions.
Because you can easily say, listen, this is my style, take it or leave it kind of thing.
Yes, but then if you do that, then you don't do jobs for corporate companies, for example, or whatever company who wants something else. You know what I mean?
So
and then you're both making
you don't
mistakes, accepting that job.
I feel like you shouldn't be stubborn in this industry. So it's not just my way or nothing.
Exactly.
At times it is if you're pitching a concept and it starts being tweaked and pushed all around. In that sense, yes. If you're comfortable in doing that job, exactly the way. For example, an artist produced this track and he doesn't want it to be mixed up and edited much. No, that's my track. I wanted it to be this way. It's the same goes to if I have a concept which I have this really solid vision on and it start being pushed around and dark. You can be stubborn in that sense. Listen, if I'm doing it, I would want it to be this way. However, you cannot be stubborn on style when a client approaches you.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want all the crazy stuff and you really love those crazy stuff and it doesn't make sense, you should put them aside and say, listen, this is a job which the client is putting a responsibility on me, which I need to understand that responsibility, put aside my personal likings, and I just need to do the job, technically.
You can then include them in a subtle way if it makes sense with the storyline.
Yes, but you don't even have to. Like, not every job has to be super artistic and super you and super exactly what you want. And sometimes you just have to detach, do your thing, give them what they need, and move on to the next one. You know what I mean? And everyone's happy.
No one knows the brand better than the client himself, you know, so who are we to just...
Exactly. And we're also, at the end of the day, offering a service, you know what I mean?
True.
So,
which makes our creative career possible at the end of the day financially.
Totally.
So this is a huge topic, actually.
And in art, there isn't any right or wrongs, in a way.
Exactly.
So whatever, if I really dislike something, as in, if we're having a conversation with the client, I would tell them, listen, let's try not to do that. I don't...
It might be cheesy.
It might be cheesy.
It's okay to give advice.
To give advice, that's for sure. Ansi, you're expected to do that. But whatever works for this client doesn't mean that it will work for this client, and vice versa. If this client doesn't like certain things, it doesn't mean that the other client wouldn't want those things.
Yeah.
It happened to us in, for example, after movies. Certain after movies, they would want to showcase certain things, and certain after movies, certain clients, they would want to showcase the process and the whole entrance and the whole...
But there's also a world where the client wouldn't fully understand what is possible. So it's your job to also educate them.
That's very important.
Because not all clients know video. Most of them, they don't. They want a video. They know that video, you know.
And they might come in and have one idea in mind, and then you open up their eyes to something entirely different.
Exactly.
And they're fully...
And it's also our responsibility to do that, right?
Exactly.
Guys, you both worked in different team formats. In this case, you were two. There were other projects where you worked by yourself as a solo filmmaker, other projects where you were part of a big crew, 7 people or more. Which is your favorite boat, Ben?
Favorite is within working with people or not?
I mean, the perfect number for you. Where do you feel comfortable most?
I don't have a favorite. To me, my favorite is, like, as cheesy as it sounds, is the best environment. So if I'm with 10 people, but I hate all of them, I don't want to be there. But if I'm with 10 and they're all my best friends, I'm happy to be there. You know
Fair
what
enough.
I mean? But I
Fair
think generally, I always prefer working with at least one other person on set. It's just, it's more fun. It's enough. You can chat, you can joke around, you can mess around, you can figure things out together. And the figuring things out together to me is massive, Ostia. And every time I do it, the project is always just better in the sense of.
That's true. You can bounce off ideas. You're
It
not
changes
alone.
That discussion, even just having the clarification of, like, am I making the right decision here? That really helps in that sense, at least for me. You know what I mean?
It's true.
And I've worked with other people where it helps them as well. So I notice it in both ways, on both fronts. You know what I mean?
And you wait. I'm curious.
Again, do I have a favorite? I think I do have a favorite in a way, in a sense. But it all boils down to, first of all, a big team is there for a reason, and a smaller team is because it can be done. In our case, it could have been done with a bigger team because we would have been more fast, and we
were super rushed.
We were super rushed. We planned. By the way, we're talking about the Café del Mar project again. We planned a full day, and we ended up doing 2 full days. So in that sense, a bigger team would have helped, because if someone is specifically a gaffer, he would have done all the lighting himself, obviously with the instruction of the DP, but he would know what the next scenes are, and he would go and light things up the way they should be, instead of us carrying all the equipment, and then we start setting the shot, and then we start doing the lights, and then we switch to sound. So in that sense, bigger teams have better purposes. Where I would love a smaller team is, I'm a bit afraid that my idea, possibly because I'm not the best communicator.
Or your vision.
My vision, possibly again because I'm not the best communicator, gets twisted a lot till the final result. So if I produce the concept and someone else is DPing it, the DP might have slightly different approach to what I'm thinking.
And the editor.
And then the editor might have a slightly different approach to. And even if there's a director involved, the director might have his own take on it, which I don't mean to be rude and as if I know it all,
And
I
it has to
want
be
my
as you
thing.
want it.
But if I produce the concept and I'm heavily into it, I would love to edit it myself, for example. So it's not a matter of I prefer one or another. I see a massive advantage when you're a bigger team when it's needed. And for example, for the summer campaign, which we did last year, we were a bigger team, and I couldn't have imagined being us two or us two. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's gonna be a big team also
And
for the summer campaign.
Exactly, again.
For Café del Mar's advert this summer.
Exactly, not to mention that although we managed to grade this project ourselves, having a colorist, which if you need masking and lighting, they're better, and it always helps. So having a bigger team with everyone doing his own role, for example, a director directing the project instead of myself directing it.
Of course, at the same time filming and blah, blah, blah.
I wouldn't have imagined having a dialogue scene, for example, for this advert, and us jumping from the camera to the audio.
With many actors.
It wouldn't have worked with
makes
many
sense.
actors. So you need a producer to tell you, listen, you're late on
pressed on
schedule,
time.
you were pressed on time. This project was nice because technically at a point we agreed, listen, we're off schedule. Are you
Let's just
happy?
do
We go
another.
again on another time. And we were so invested in it that we actually told the client, listen, If it's good for you, obviously,
We can
it was good for him.
And if we were a team of 10 people, that would have been impossible to do.
Of
That
course.
would have been
Then
impossible to
you
do.
have to
You need
schedule
to,
another day for 10
even if you're
people, you have
renting,
budgets for 10
even if you're
people, you
just
have-
renting the equipment, because
Exactly.
It will double
renting
the
costs a
budget.
lot of money.
Double the budget.
To
more.
double the renting of stuff, having the crew times 2. Therefore, you need to double
Exactly.
the budget. So it's not always possible. If I had to choose, I love being in a small team when possibly again, because I'm not sure if I managed to put my idea across perfectly. So that's a
Perfectly.
disadvantage I
You
have.
mentioned it. You're a perfectionist, so that doesn't help with the whole thing, right?
Yeah, but I
And you
should
produced great stuff.
I should be
which looks-
able to work on my communication skills for myself.
to communicate your vision, right?
To communicate my vision for myself to work in a larger team.
Yes.
So that's, and in a larger team, sometimes there are agencies, which I don't have anything against agencies, but the more people are involved in a project, I feel
the more your concept will be challenged. it's like a telephone.
Exactly,
Might tell you something,
exactly.
you tell you-
It can either, there are certain things which I envision, and I do not communicate well. Therefore, it might sound that the idea is not that great. But I'm confident that if they see the finished product, they would love it. So when I'm not pitching or when I'm not sharing my ideas perfectly, the client might say, or the agency or whoever is on board might say, listen, I'm not sure about that. And we might tweak it. And the end result wouldn't be as I wanted it to be when thinking of the concept. For example, if I'm producing the concept.
This is a whole podcast by itself. by the way.
Yes. But
True, we could talk about
just to
this forever.
conclude on this, I really see the benefit of being in a bigger team.
And once you find those people who get your ideas straight away,
Exactly.
then it becomes...
So basically, that's it. As you mentioned,
What?
if you're in a bigger team, which we trust each other, and even if I do not communicate perfectly, I know
He gets
that
it.
if you're DPing it, you get the understanding of what I'm
Exactly.
doing. If you're doing the lighting, you get the understanding of what I'm after. Or if I'm DPing it, I get the understanding
Exactly.
of what you want to direct. Or what, if I have specific roles, I think I'll manage to fit in a bigger team, and I would love it possibly more.
And on the flip side, there's also another scenario where you want to work with people to give you their own creative feedback.
That's
in the
for
sense
sure,
of like,
that's for sure.
you're the director, you have an idea, but you want the editor to just like mess around with the footage and see what he does,
That's
and then take it
for-
from there, and
that's
then you
for sure.
direct that and his result. you know what I
In fact,
and that really
might
produces
surprise
some
you.
of the stuff.
I do not want to come off as arrogant as if
as
my
if-
ideas are the best and I should work on my own cause my own work is the
No, but
best.
in some
or that's
scenarios,
it.
you should have one vision and you want that. But in others,
But
it would be cool
exactly,
to,
no,
to
I
give
like-
people the creative freedom you also
And
got
you
from
take a
Café
lot,
del Mar,
that's
you
it.
know what I
Another
mean?
point is you take a lot from other creators. So if, let's say, we were working on a project with Clive dipping, I'm sure that as a sometimes dippy
He'll have his
myself,
own-
I would learn a lot from Clive dipping our project, for example. If we're working with Mike or Lert as directors who are more specified on directing, I'm sure even when we're doing smaller projects, I would take on things from them. When we're doing smaller projects, I can direct certain things better. When we sit down with Greg for coloring or Red, was working with them, we understand certain things from their profession. So that's
and like
definitely
you might be working with the colorist and he tells you, listen, actually, it's cooler if it's a bit more green. will you know?
Exactly.
And you take the feedback and you move, you know
I think
what
it's
mean?
the beauty of our creative career at the end of the day, creative journey. Collaboration, we decided this year that this is the year for collaboration for us. So Videocafe 2026 onwards is all about collaborations, hence why this podcast, hence why collaborating with you and with all the people that Adrian mentioned. It's the beauty
There
of
are
it, because
ones which we
there
didn't
are more,
mention,
but
obviously.
it's impossible.
Multiple ones, but
And it's also the beauty of it is it's always dynamic. It's never the same. Like,
Totally.
You know, which is so exciting. I can.
that's it. And different
Especially for someone
creators.
like me, I get fed up when shit's always the same. Day
Of
in, day
course,
out, you know?
For sure.
course.
And different creators
course.
have different abilities.
Exactly.
So if we're doing a more cinematic piece, blah, 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 one would fit the team better than I would, for example.
Exactly.
So if we had to conclude all this, we would say, if you agree, that when it comes to team or the size of a team, you have to assess what kind of concept, what kind of production, what kind of resources you need, right? And then take it from there. If it's doable, one person, go for it. If it's something that you need two,
Totally.
exchange thoughts, bounce off some ideas,
And move a bit
great,
faster.
works perfect. Not alone, you're a team of two, maybe 3 people, or maybe 7 or more. So that would be great. It was great having you guys here. And I'm ending this podcast with a small surprise, because whilst when I was
That at the
preparing
beginning.
for this podcast, I asked Adrian, what does Benji drink? Does he take coffee? Because I never saw him drink coffee. Tea, maybe? Maybe.
have my tea.
Chamomile or something like that. You have your tea, which is still
just
full.
a prop, like, to show
But I was surprised because Adrian said, it's Coke, bro.
It's Coke for
So-
a kick.
and it's
we got
and it's funny. I don't even drink Coke that much. Like my mom is a bit of a health freak in the sense of
exactly.
whenever I have soft drinks at home. But we're on set last time and he offered me a coffee and I'm like, you know what? I don't want a coffee, else I'm gonna get all shaky and stuff. So I asked for a Coke.
It was a great conversation to have. If you didn't watch the production itself, make sure you watch it in the description below. And see you next time, I guess. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.